everybody, I'm Grimmi, and welcome to this episode of Grimmi's Unwanted Opinions, an inconsistent series on my channel where I give my opinion on whatever interests me. This Unwanted Opinions video is going to be about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I am a huge MCU fan. While I only started actively reading the Marvel comics in 2015 or so, I had seen them before and was familiar with some of the characters before I saw each movie, since I just generally like comics and grew up with them. So I did always have a little bias when watching the movies due to my pre-made opinions of the characters from the comics. However, at the time I was only like 10, so my opinions were nothing beyond, I think they're cool, I think they suck. That's literally it. However, before I start, let me make one thing very clear. I consider the MCU almost completely separate to the comics. I'm aware of some fans being very salty that the movies aren't 100% loyal to the comics, but when it comes to things like story plots, I am completely fine with that. Some things that work in comics don't work in movies and vice versa. The only thing that I do get salty about when it comes to changing up characters is with the appearance of characters. I really don't like characters being gender or race swapped, since I find it disrespectful to the original character, no matter if the character was good or bad. Here's how I'm formatting this video. I'll introduce the main characters of the MCU in order of their appearance, so Iron Man first, Captain Marvel last, that kind of thing. As I do that, I'll tell you my opinion on the comics version of the character I had at the time, and then my opinion on the movie version and what I think of them now from the movie version. I'll go through each movie of the MCU, summarizing my general opinion on each of the movies in a couple of sentences. I'll make a couple of comments on something related to the MCU, such as maybe pairings and the cinematography, and at the end I'll give my overall thoughts as well as my attitude towards Phase 4. Also, there will definitely be spoilers for every single movie, including Endgame, so watch at your own discretion. I'll probably add a couple of things along the way. With that, let's get started. Before the first Iron Man movie in 2008, I knew very little about Iron Man, being more of an X-Men and Wolverine fan, but from what I had seen of him, I thought he was pretty cool over maybe a bit of a jerk. After the movie, I completely fell in love with the character, and in my opinion, Tony is the heart of the MCU, ironically enough. I hadn't heard of Pepper at all before the MCU, so I had no opinion of her. But now I think she's super cool and I really like her. I think her relationship with Tony is funny, touching and adorable, and her character is relatable and kind. Another character I had no opinion on before the movies. My current opinion of him is that he's pretty freaking cool, but not really interesting beyond his interaction with other characters. Nick Fury is pretty different to the original version from the comics, although it's more on his appearance rather than his personality. While I said earlier that I'm not a fan of race swapping the characters, like, at all, Sam Jackson plays him really well and owns the character completely. While I don't think much of Nick Fury, he's a cool character that I do appreciate. I've never been much of a Hulk fan. I don't dislike him, but I've never really cared for the character in the comics. I still appreciate him for what he is though, and in the movies, I really like him. Although, as much as I do like him, I think he's really underused and underappreciated. I don't like how he was treated in Avengers Infinity Wars, and how he was in Endgame, and I felt like they wasted some potential with the character. Still, I think he's pretty interesting and I like his interactions with the others. I had heard of her before, but like with most female characters, I didn't care. Me and my bias against female characters is a topic for another day, but all you need to know is that this 10-year-old me did not care for female characters, and I still don't really, by default. However, by Avengers, the first one, Black Widow grew on me. I thought she was cool, I liked her friendships with the other characters, especially Steve and Clint, and her backstory was intriguing to me. I didn't care much for Thor either before the movies. I guess I didn't like his design much, and godlike characters didn't really interest me at all. However, after the movies, I can safely say that I really enjoy Thor's character. I think he's funny, heartwarming, and overall a sweet guy. Loki is very different to the comics. Mainly before the MCU started. Before the MCU, he was a completely different character. But the movies made him more sympathetic, so again, I didn't really have much of an opinion of him beyond he's a villain. Loki is definitely one of the best Marvel villains, if you can even call him that at this point, and I find him charming and somewhat endearing in his evil ways. Before the MCU, Hawkeye was already my favourite Avenger. Not because I really knew anything about his character or anything like that, but because I just loved the fact that he used bow and arrows. 10-year-old me had very low standards for characters. I still have low standards, but my point stands. Now, with the movies, he's still my favourite Avenger, especially after Endgame. Not only because of his skills and cool arrows, but I actually really like the fact that he's a dad, and his friendship with Black Widow is awesome. I always thought he was pretty dope, even if my little child self thought his costume looked silly, but I always thought as a child that he was pretty awesome. With the movies, I again fell in love with the character and was completely on board to seeing more of him. Along with Tony, Steve really is the heart of the MCU, in my opinion. Another character I didn't know anything about before the movies. In the first Avenger, I only cared for him because Steve cared for him, but in Winter Soldier and Civil War, he really grew on me. I think he's a very interesting character with a cool metal arm who just really needs a hug. I love Peggy. She's feminine and beautiful, yet confident and just awesome. I think her interactions with Steve are perfect and I just love her character. In the comics, Falcon's outfit always made me laugh, so I never could really take him seriously. But the movies made me like him more and I think his costume is really cool. Spoilers for Endgame coming up, you've got 3 seconds. Okay, so at the end when Steve gives Sam the shield and passes on the mantle of Captain America to him, I was really happy. When Falcon became Captain America in the comics, it was so badly done, and I was pretty annoyed and unimpressed when it happened. But in the movie, they handled it really well, and I look forward to, hopefully, seeing more of Sam in the future. To be fair, I don't think anybody knew of the Guardians of the Galaxies before the movies came out, but jokes aside, I really had no idea that the whole group existed. I don't like space-related things at the best of times, but Guardians of the Galaxies really made it work for me. Peter's awesome and he's funny and endearing, with an interesting and heartfelt backstory that makes me root for him. Again, didn't know who he was, but I immediately fell in love with him the second I saw him. 1, because he's a raccoon. Okay, not really a raccoon, but he's a raccoon. And 2, because he's a jerk. I love jerk characters. The more of a prick the character is, the more I'm gonna like them by default. Volume 2 made me love him even more, and Infinity Wars just made me want to hug him. I'm grouping these characters together because my opinion of them is the same. I like them, I'm happy they exist, and the films wouldn't be the same without them. They all add something to the films, and I like them all for it. Gamora is beautiful, Drax is funny, Nebula is cool, and Groot is adorable. Mantis just needs somebody to guide her through life because I feel like she's gonna just die the second she steps out of the spaceship, like, ugh, jeez. Yondu is my favourite Guardians of the Galaxy character. Everything about him is so cool, and he's just everything I love in a character. I love him so much. He's such a cool character. His species of alien is so interesting. I love his little quirks, his father-son relationship with Quill, and just the whole arrow thing. I knew who all of these characters were before the movies, but again, didn't think much of them. I still don't really think much of them. Scarlet Witch's powers are cool, and she's a sweet person. Quicksilver was funny in Age of Ultron, and Vision was... He was pretty cool and had his moments, but just not my kind of character. Before the movie, I knew of Scott Lang and his relationship with his daughter. and I really liked him because of that. I also knew of Hank Pym, and the Wasp, different versions of the Wasp, but again, didn't think much of them. Now I think Ant-Man and Wasp are pretty cool, yeah, but I don't really have much to say about them beyond that. Black Panther never interested me in the comics. I knew of his abilities and that Storm from the X-Men was married to him at one point, but that's about it. In the movies, his suit is really cool and his fighting scenes in Civil War are super awesome and like, so cool, but I don't really care about him. I had obviously seen the first Spider-Man trilogy at a younger age. I still haven't seen the Amazing Spider-Man films, but yeah, I also knew Spider-Man from the comics decently well and thought that he was a friendly, relatable and cool character. I hate using the word relatable, but you get what I mean. I have nothing but good things to say about Spider-Man. And while the MCU Spidey is charming and adorable, he doesn't really feel like Spider-Man to me. Tom Holland still plays him very well, and I do like him in the movies, but Tobey Maguire will always be my favourite Spider-Man. Doctor Strange was a character I knew about, but never gave a second thought to. I said earlier that godlike characters weren't something I enjoyed when I was younger, and that is related to the fact that gods in fiction are often connected to magic somehow. I didn't like magic-based stories. Probably why I'm not much of a Harry Potter fan, like at least not for the long term like some people seem to be. But that's a completely different can of worms. I saw the Doctor Strange movie in the cinema with my parents and we all very much enjoyed the movie. I still don't think very much of Doctor Strange, but when I do think of him, I think he's cool and has some interesting abilities. I obviously knew who Thanos was before I watched the movies, but again, didn't really care. However, in the movies, he's definitely the best MCU villain, no argument there. Not because he, spoilers, obliterated half of the freaking universe, but because of how he was written as a character. Sure, his mentality is weird and doesn't make much sense at times, but that doesn't matter. I really liked him as a villain and I think he's a total badass. Characters I haven't mentioned fall into two categories. Categories like Valkyrie, Jane Foster, Ned, Happy, Agent Coulson are purely side characters to me. I'm not saying they're bad, just that on their own they're kind of boring. I only care for these characters when they're interacting with the main character. Hawkeye's family is really sweet, but I only love them because Clint loves them. The other category of unmentioned characters are the maybe if I ignore them, they'll leave category. There are only a couple of characters like this, but the main ones are MJ and Shuri. First of all, I am genuinely annoyed that they race swap MJ. MJ's a ginger, and unless this MJ dyes her hair red or ginger, I'm still gonna be annoyed. Ginger characters are by default my favourite characters, along with albinos, whatever, which is why I get annoyed when people draw Daredevil from the comics with brown, black or blonde hair like he had in the cartoon. And then the Shuri. I know she's meant to be the annoying little sister type of character, but she's so aggravating. She's cocky, haughty and insufferable. It's the kind of insufferable that I don't like. Like, it's not like Rocket Raccoon with like his, cockiness and like general jackassery is funny and somewhat endearing and makes you like the character. It's not that kind of annoying. It's genuinely the sort of, I'm better than you and I know I am sort of, I don't care. Like how she, give me a second. Okay, I don't like how she was mean to Martin Freeman's character and how she talked to Bruce Banner. I literally made a villain character based off of her and then made two hero characters of my own to beat her up. That's how much I don't like her. I don't hate her, Look, when she got snapped out of existence by Thanos, I was cheering, okay? She pisses me off. Maybe I do hate her a little bit. A lot. Apart from the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, all of the characters were pretty meh. Not bad, but not that memorable either. Vulture was pretty interesting because of his connection to Peter Parker, and I think he's cool, but the others kind of fell flat for me. Red Skull was okay though. I hate her in the comics, I hate her in the movie. She's about as interesting as stale Weetabix, has no character development, and is just one big fat bleh to me. At least Monica Rambeau would have been more visually interesting than this incarnation of a blank piece of wet cardboard. When she was Miss Marvel in the comics, she was somewhat likeable, but I literally never cared about her. But ever since she became Captain Marvel in the comics, she's been nothing but a brat, a horrible person and borderline villainous, and not the good kind. She's so boring. And that did not translate well into the movie. Love it. Favorite Iron Man movie? It was okay, wasn't too impressed but not awful. Love it, not as good as Iron Man 1, but just having Tony on the screen makes me happy. Love it. At first I was a bit meh about it, but by the end I was hyped. Love it, the characters are fun and the story is interesting. Love it, everything about it was cool. I loved seeing the characters interact with each other. Love it, more Tony the better. The story was a bit at times, but I can still live with it. Like it, the story was again a bit but the characters were a lot of fun, especially Loki. Love it, the story was entertaining and Bucky's return was awesome. Love it, never been big on space things, but this film made me willing to expand my interest to sci-fi to the point where I made my own space-connected story. Like it, not as good as the first Avengers, but entertaining all the same. I especially liked Hawkeye and Quicksilver's interactions. Like it, it was funny, and I loved the father-daughter moments between Scott and Cassie, but the villain fell flat for me. Love it. Spider-Man's introduction was awesome and the airport fight scene was super entertaining. Bucky and Steve's scenes were funny and emotionally packed, and the whole final scene of Iron Man fighting them had me on edge of my seat the entire time. For the record, I was team sit back and eat popcorn because of you, that's why. Or team X-Men because they're cooler, but that wouldn't make any sense. Like it, the effects were cool and the magic aspect of the universe was well done. Love it, everything about this movie was awesome. I loved Yondu and Rocket's interactions, and that scene when they killed everybody on the ship and the story about Peter and his dad was seriously cool. It was fun. I was content when I left the cinema, but after I had time to think about it, I was actually pretty unsatisfied. I guess I have certain expectations of what Spider-Man should be, based on what I've seen in the comics and the Maguire movies, and by no means is Tom Holland a bad actor. But it felt more like Spider-Boy, Iron Man's sidekick, more than Spider-Man. But I'm probably being too harsh, and I am still looking forward to the next Spidey movie. Love it. Didn't care much for Valkyrie, but I thought Thor and Hulk were freaking badass. And Loki was endearing as always. But nothing to write home about. It wasn't awful, it wasn't amazing. I just think it had so much wasted potential, and they just missed the mark for me. Not to mention that the world building is bleh, and the characters were bleh. Just bleh. And that CGI. Bleh. Like it, but wasn't as good as everybody hyped it up to be, in my apparently controversial opinion. Still a really good movie though. Despite the critics, I thought it was enjoyable. It wasn't particularly interesting or good, but I found Wasp's costume cool, and Scotland is always fun to watch. Off. Now, Endgame. Wait, no, I should probably expand on Captain Marvel there. Okay. Look, the movie had nothing to offer, okay? It was boring, the characters were unlikable, and had such a yes queen feel to it that it made me cringe. I don't like the yes slay queen, you go girl, whatever vibes a lot of Marvel comics have at the moment. And it really didn't work in the movie. Also, Brie Larson just what a shite character. What a shite actress, jeez. And as much as I want to separate the actor from the art, it's so hard to do, especially with Marvel when they're so like personally invested into this universe. And it's just such an underwhelming movie. Goose the cat was cute but completely unnecessary, and the thing with Nick Fury's eye was stupid. Now, Avengers Endgame. Adored it. Okay, spoilers for Endgame. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I went to see it twice in the cinema, and not only do I hardly ever go to the cinema, I have never ever been to the cinema twice for the same movie. I cried, I laughed, and died inside. This was the perfect movie. I was squealing the entire time. Seriously, I'm about to spoil pretty much the whole movie of Endgame. Like, I'm giving you 5 whole seconds to click off or skip this part of the video because damn. Okay, so Tony's daughter Morgan is the cutest thing ever, and the number 3000 will forever make me cry. All those jokes about Cap's ass made me laugh like an idiot. Cap saying his hair hard dry would make me squeal. Loki's moments were awesome. Thor was unexpected and I liked it. Thought Rocket's new outfit is adorable. Black Widow's death made me die inside. Hawkeye being a badass made me squeal like the fangirl I am. The whole time that Cap wields Mjolnir is fucking amazing and cinematically beautiful. It gave me a heart attack. In the final fight where everybody joins in, the fucking amazing and so awesome. That scene where Pepper fights as rescue alongside Tony made me jump in my seat. Spider-Man being cute and innocent made me melt when Thanos flung Captain Marvel to the side and then fucking punched into oblivion was so satisfying I had to stifle my cheers. Tony's death made me cry the first time and even harder the second time I saw the movie. Pepper was amazing and I love her. Steve's ending with Peggy was beautiful and it made me so happy that he finally got to have his dance with her and it was so fucking sweet. Oh my god. Okay, I'm calm now. So yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this movie and I'm making new characters and stories of my own because that's the only I can deal with it. There was a couple of things I thought wasn't necessary, but I don't care about them in the long run. Like, the movie was so good, and even with these scenes in, I don't care about these scenes. One of them was the weird support group scene with Captain America comforting comforting people 5 years after Thanos killed half the universe. I didn't realize this until people started talking about it, but the guy that was saying how he's trying to date again, that guy, and he went on a date with another guy. For some reason, that didn't register in my mind, but it meant he was gay. I guess I was too distracted by Chris Evans looking gorgeous, but the whole scene felt out of place for me. I don't think it ruined the movie or anything like that. It just felt kind of forced. The other part was when all the female characters sort of grouped together with the "she's not alone" line. Like, I don't care. This is a war. Why are we suddenly segregating the characters based on their sex? Is this meant to be a girl power moment? Because it was just cringy and stupid. Again, didn't ruin the movie, just something I thought was stupid. However, despite saying that, if my previous mild breakdown hasn't made it obvious, it's an amazing movie and I love it. The end credits with the main cast's signature got me really emotional for some reason. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on the movies. I could talk about each one of them for hours, to be honest. In the shipping world, my favourite ships are Tony x Pepper, Steve x Peggy, and Bucky x Natasha, which is canon in the comics, by the way. I found the whole obsession with making Steve and Bucky a couple really stupid. Does anybody remember that hashtag Give Captain America a Boyfriend from a few years back? It was around the same time the comics made Cap a Hydra agent. I remember when those two things was such a big deal and everybody was shouting left and right about it. But yeah, some of the ships were very funny, like Iron Man and Doctor Strange. I think it's a funny ship. Honestly, I kind of casually ship Tony with everyone because no matter which relationship he's in, it will always be funny. But my OTP is definitely Tony and Pepper. Steve and Peggy make my heart melt because it's such a wholesome couple. I just think Natasha and Bucky are the perfect power couple. I genuinely love the MCU and it has given us some really cool movies. I personally never went through the superhero fatigue. However, I do agree that the film plot lines have many similarities and do reuse the same basic plot lines, but that never made it bad or boring for me. I get it why it would bother others, but not me. Fight scenes are usually awesome and really well done, with some exceptions, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and the character and suit designs are always, usually anyway, super on point. Almost all of the actors feel like they were born to play the characters they have, especially RDJ and Chris Evans. Although one thing I don't like is that the movies always look dirty, like gritty, unsaturated. Does that make sense? I think it's a filter of sorts that dulls down the colours, and it's just really not necessary. I think it's meant to make the movie look more realistic, and it doesn't by any means hinder my experience of the movie. It's just a nitpick of mine. I prefer brighter colours, more saturated colours. Not neon, but just something that feels a bit more superhero-y. With Endgame over, which felt like the perfect finale to the MCU, and it truly is the end of an era now that RDJ and Evans have left the MCU, I'm kind of done with the MCU. Not that I won't watch their movies, I absolutely will, and I'm really looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And there are also rumours of a Black Widow movie, and honestly, I hope we get one because I need to know what happened with her and Hawkeye in Budapest. But like I said before, Tony and Steve were the hearts of the MCU, and for me, without them, it feels a bit empty. Again, I will of course keep watching the movies, but I don't think I'll ever feel as eager or as enthusiastic as I have before to keep watching without Tony and Steve. Not to mention that there have been some articles saying that Russo brothers will be concentrating more on diversity in the movies, and as a storyteller and fan of stories myself, I can tell you that is definitely cause for concern. The second you start concentrating more on the diversity of a character over the character itself, their story, their development, and their personality, everything goes downhill. Honestly, I could make a whole video on why I don't think things like diversity and representation should be the forefront of importance in the entertainment industry. It would be one of those videos that would definitely ruffle a few billion feathers, but I have been meaning to make a video about it. All I say for now is that reducing a character to only one aspect of their existence, be it their sex, race, sexuality, or even religion, is basically a death sentence. Which is why modern Marvel comics aren't selling, because that's what they concentrate on. And that's why I'm a little concerned about the tone of the future movies. However, if there are two things I absolutely will be looking forward to in future MCU's movies, that is more of Morgan Stark. I swear to everything beautiful, if they don't give me more of that adorable girl, I will cry. And secondly, did Steve and Peggy have any kids? I need to know. But yeah, I will be watching the future MCU movies, but for me, the MCU started losing its mojo in the end of Phase 2. Phase 3 was made better with Infinity Wars and Endgame, and I think Phase 4 will be a fun ride, but I don't want the MCU to be like a TV show that has overstayed its welcome. But yeah, these are pretty much my summarized opinions on the MCU. I'm by no means a film critic, if you haven't noticed. I'm just an emotionally attached fan, and so it is an emotionally filled opinion you're gonna get. I hope you could still enjoy this video, and despite my demented squealing at the end there, all Marvel movies, even the ones outside of Marvel Studios like X-Men, Fantastic Four and Venom, mean a lot to me because they all originated from comic books, and as a comic artist / writer in the workings myself, it makes it very personal for me. I'm not sure why. Anyway, that's my opinion on the MCU. I hope you enjoyed my video and didn't offend anybody too badly. All of my social media links are in the description down below, and feel free to check out my Patreon. Quick side note, if you have any specific wants of what you want me to make an opinion on, for example, if you want me to elaborate on why I don't like Captain Marvel, or elaborate why I don't like Shuri or something like that, make a whole video on its own, feel free to suggest that. I'll probably make it anyway if I get passionate enough about the topic. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.